And welcome back to ScavTalk, everyone. Today's episode, we got a ton of news actually. First, starting with some ammo craft changes, followed by a hack. The launcher got hacked, I guess, is part of the news. Some other updates as well, some teasers from BSG, some street screenshots, and we got a couple different interesting little tidbits on some anti-cheat related stuff. So Giga, yeah, how you been, man? How's the new and improved GigaBeef internet? Look at you, all crisp and clear and quality, dude.
It is good. It is good. I have been slacking on the YouTube content, and I'm like right up against it because I've spent most of this week tinkering, fiddling, optimizing, changing
Uh,
stuff, setting things up, and it is taking way longer than I expected. Like I don't know. I think once you start delving into it, it just becomes like really, really crazy. Um, but anyway, the internet got turned on, and it's just disgustingly good, right? Like I said before, what the change in speed that I was expecting to get, and it's like literally 200 times faster than I had before on the upload side. Which, to say that it's a game changer is kind of underselling it, even, to be honest. Because before I had 4.5 megabit of upload, and now I have 900. So no matter what I do, basically, it's just like no big deal. It's quite funny. I have this. My dad told me about Amazon Photos, where you can just like back your stuff up, and I've got mountains and mountains and mountains of photos. And I was just running because I was just like in the background, just like may as well leave it on while I'm doing other stuff, just like having it running. I think I had it on for 3 months or something, just in the background, just like running passively or whatever. The new internet came. I like went to go get lunch, and I came back. It was finished. It's just like, oh my god. Because like 200 times, like it sounds a lot, but when you put it in context, it's actually really extreme. It's like if a
yeah,
video before took 200 minutes to upload, which is like 3 hours 20 minutes, it now takes 1 minute. It's like when you put it in those terms, you can see how crazy it is, right? It's like actually insane. And then you just have the ability to send as much data out as you want to any different platform or whatever. So I've also started I've also started doing some YouTube streaming as well, because I didn't want to do it before because like it just didn't make sense. Like the reason why you'd go over there to do that is because they allow you to stream in like way higher quality than Twitch. And with my crappy internet, there was no point. There was just like no point trying it at that stage, or I didn't really want to. But that's obviously brought in some like interesting things. I did a test stream on Wednesday, which was just on YouTube, which was fine, and I
hmm
like streamed at some stupid bit rate, and it was all good. Then yesterday I tried to do it. I tried to do YouTube and Twitch, and also record locally all at once. And the issue the issue is I ended up I delved like right into the weeds. So I was like reading like Nvidia's like NVENC documentation and stuff, because I tried. I think it was basically a load of the settings in OBS, because I'm still like figuring out. Oh yeah, I was told this to church just before, but I'm also the two the two different programs that people normally use to do streaming is either Streamlabs OBS or normal OBS. And Streamlabs OBS is like the noob version. And it's because a friend, like back when I started, I was like, oh, I'm thinking about getting into this. And he was like, oh, you should try looking at Streamlabs, because it's really easy. You log in and you just like connect to Twitch and stuff. Like, you don't have to put in any keys or anything like that. You just log into it and stuff. And there's loads of things that are automatic in there. But there's like been controversy with the company, and they kind of just like basically taken OBS and then like paywalled a load of the interesting features. So it's like a little bit shady, plus the fact that you can't do everything that you want to do, and it's like OBS is a lot better anyway. So I've transitioned the entire stream over to normal OBS from Streamlabs as well at the same time in the middle of this, to try and get some more control. Which is, so that's like added to the complexity. So yeah, yesterday on Thursday I tried to stream on. So okay, let me add one more piece to this.
hmm
So um I'm getting I don't even know which order I should talk about this. I've got like my mind is just broken. You can probably tell, like my mind is so full of stuff after this week. Okay, I'll leave that for a second. Okay, so what I tried to do on Thursday was so I have a weird res on my screen, but it's basically 1080. We'll just pretend it's 1080 for a second. So I was basically streaming to YouTube in my res, but upscaled to 1440p, because that enables the VP9 encoder on the YouTube side. Otherwise, they use the lower quality
Right.
encoder and it looks bad.
Mm.
Meanwhile, and that was in like 25k bitrate, streaming simultaneously to Twitch,
It's crazy.
downscaling to 920
Oh,
at 8k,
yeah.
and then recording locally in my native res using CQP24. So I've got like 3 encodes happening simultaneously. And I looked around online and it was like, originally you could only do, the NVENC encoder is actually really, really strong. It's like really powerful because it's so fast. And it's like a hardware thing. So it's like sick. And you could do 3 originally, and they actually upped it to 5 for some of the newer ones, which is in the 3070s. Like that was no problem.
That was a
But
very
when I
recent thing they did too, right?
pretty recently, yeah,
Yeah, I
pretty
remember
recently.
hearing about that. Yeah.
I tried to do it, and it was just like that's too much. It's too much. Like the whole thing just started. Everyone was like, because people before were saying, "Oh, your camera's kind of lagging." When I clicked go record, and I was like, okay. And then I tried it in Woods, and everyone was like, "Oh no, it's actually the whole stream. You were just in the stash, so we couldn't tell." I was like, "Oh god." So I went and looked at the settings, but it turned out that afterwards I had like multipass on and stuff. I think the OBS has got like a load of multipass settings on automatically.
Huh.
So and what that does effectively, it does like an encode to figure out what the next frame, like how the next frame needs to be encoded, or like it does an encode to figure out how many. There's like lots of different things that I'm not like a super expert in it, but basically it does an extra set of encoding. And when I was reading through the documentation, it was like, yeah, NVENC can deal with it can deal with 2 4K streams at 60p or 2 4K encodes at 60 hertz. So I was like, okay, well, I mean that's quite a lot. I like my encodes probably don't get to that, but if I'm double encoding everything, then it does. So I turned off multipass on everything and changed it from. I think there's like they've added a load of presets now because it used to be like the X264 stuff. It was like very fast, like medium, slow,
Right.
They've like got rid of all that and changed it over to like P1 through P7, which I
Oh
like
yeah.
was learning about like yesterday because
Yeah.
that wasn't in Streamlabs version I was using, but it is in OBS. Anyway, so I changed some of that stuff and I ran a test today, a private YouTube stream with using Twitch in test mode and recording onto my own machine, and everything looked fine, and the recording looked beautiful, and everything was like, Twitch was like, "Yep, this is cool," and YouTube was like, "Yep, this is cool," and it all looked good. I do actually think this is going to be made slightly easier by this is the thing I was going to say before. So I finally because this whole like 1440p unlocks the better quality on YouTube thing. I have to like upscale everything I do, which is really annoying. And people have been badgering on me about getting a better monitor for ages because I actually play in 60 hertz, and everyone's just like, every time I mention it. And then because of this, I was just like, okay, well, if I've got these live streams going, and we've got like the VODs channel coming back or whatever, I have to then like re-render everything or like rendering it live, upscaling it live and stuff. It's just a pain. Like, there's no need for that.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, this is the thing that's finally tipped me over the edge. So I bought a 1440p monitor, 144 hertz. So that's coming on Monday. So when I get that, I'm gonna have to go back through all the settings again and rescale everything and blah blah blah. But that means that then I should be streaming out to YouTube like natively in 1440p without having to do any freaking weird upscaling stuff. I just have to downscale Twitch a bit and then just record locally also in 1440. So even though it's a bigger res, it should actually be like less taxing from an encoding perspective because it has to do less like,
right,
make this one bigger, make this one smaller, like encode this and that. Like it's all this crazy stuff. So I've been delving deep into the weeds this week, dude. It's been crazy. But yeah, no, it went really well. It's been going really, really well. The YouTube side's like insane. As you imagine, it's one of those things where I think YouTube streaming getting started there is like really tough. You kind of need like the VOD backing. But if you already have a channel, like I do, fortunately, then you press go and it's there's like a bunch of people see it and whatever. So I ended up, I think there's like 2 to 2.5 times as many people over there as on Twitch normally, which I was like, wasn't really surprising, I guess, but it's just like I didn't really know how it was going to go. So it was nice. It was nice to see it. It was nice to see it. I was like, okay, this is actually cool. So yeah, it's fun. There's lots of stuff going on that side for me for just like setting everything up. So yeah, I'm just like going, I should really make a video. And just like really want to just like fiddle with OBS for another 3 hours, whatever. I do think I'm kind of there though, which is good. I guess like Tarkov related stuff. Maybe I'll talk about in a bit, but kind of finished with the labs thing. I did finally find the GPSA. We got it in the end. We got it in the end. Thank goodness.
It is real. It does exist.
It does exist. and we got it, and it's all good. And we had some cool fights. I've got a couple of cool tales, which I guess, but yeah, I'll talk about in a little bit. But otherwise, it's been good. How's your week? How's your week been? What have you been up to?
Pretty good. I just recently was playing the Cycle Frontiers new season 3. Lots of changes there, and yeah, it's kind of interesting. Kind of maybe we'll talk about too, kind of how it could relate to Tarkov. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's just been there's kind of been a lot going on in the Tarkov space, and then the whole anti-cheat side and everything. It's very, very fascinating. So yeah, I guess just jumping right into the news. The first thing I guess we'll talk about was the ammo changes, which I was pleasantly surprised to see them make improvements to it, which is good. So the a lot of the ammo crafts in the hideout got reworked, slightly improved to be more what would you say, reasonable?
Yeah,
Usable,
yeah,
viable,
exactly.
which is good.
There's kind of three things for me with these, which is the time that it takes, and some of them are just
Right.
entirely unreasonable. There's the cost, which for some of them is really high, and then there's how many you get per crafting cycle or whatever. And they've kind of done a bit of a mix and match of each one. This is actually what I was it was quite funny. So this is actually what I'm going to end up doing videos wise, because I was going to do a labs thing, but I need to spend a bit more time on it. I haven't justified the time yet, so I've actually been looking at this today, and it's kind of intriguing. I think so. It's 45 AP. They've added a couple more rounds. You need from 120 to 150 laser match now, but the production time's gone down from nearly 15 hours to just under 9 hours, which is pretty big. I mean, a 15-hour production time is really annoying because it's all of the day, whereas 8 hours 45, you can craft some in the evening, and then you can get up in the morning, and then you can craft something else.
Yeah.
If you're really dedicated and want to do that, it was 14 hours. It's just well, it's just kind of dead time. Unless you're specifically there at your computer, when you press go, -8 hours the following day. It's just really awkward, and that's the thing about it. It's just really, really awkward. But that could be kind of cool. I was looking again at that one, 45 AP, because it's actually pretty cheap. It's quite a reasonable craft. Let me find it, because I think it's only about 700 or 800 per bullet, because you need a hawk, some of these cheap bullets, 150 of laser matches, one eagle, and a pack of nails. So that's it. You don't actually need that much. And now this a bit shorter. It's a kind of it's a kind of maybe. It's a kind of maybe. It's not the best round ever, but it's okay.
Yeah, having more viable options is always a good thing, and I really appreciate that they are adjusting the system to provide. I mean, they got a lot of levers they can pull, which is interesting. You get, as you said, you get the cost lever, the time lever, the how much you actually get from doing it lever. And yeah, I mean, looking at some of these, the APSX was originally 21 hours, now it's 10 hours. That's a much obviously they changed other things too about it. You get more ammo, but it's good. It's all very good stuff. One thing that I do find interesting about this is, now that we're in this new era of Tarkov, where you have to, there's a bit more scarcity than what there used to be in different iterations of Tarkov. But specifically with all the flea mark bans, now the traders don't provide a lot of these ammos. And or if they do, they're a really high level. You need max loyalty.
Yeah.
And yeah, so now you have to do a lot of crafting or find it in raid, and it's kind of interesting because we went from one, BSG's always kind of said they like they like the stock limits, they like these things about the game, And the previous meta was you would go buy all the rounds from all the traders, because you never know what you might end up using. So it's better to have the ammo on hand so you can use it, et cetera, et cetera. And now it's a lot more difficult too. And like one of the frustrations of that older system was you had personal limits and you had global limits. So like you would have enough personal limits to be able to buy the thing, but the global stock would be out on like M80 or something. It was like super frustrating because you weren't there on time around the resets. But I say all that to say that now it's like we kind of have a similar thing. Like you can only get so much. You're only allotted so much ammo for each crafting time. You know what I mean? Like I can't get, if I want APSX, for example, I can get 180 every 10 hours,
Yeah.
But the one difference that I like about it is that it's now a little bit more of a market driven price. If because you have those components like the gunpowder specifically, and then whatever like unique item, like some of them take like bolts or something, for like its craft. And if that thing becomes popular or whatever, you have that market fluctuation, and it kind of helps address some of those issues with the old trader system where it's like a fixed price. So I like it. It's just interesting how we still kind of have that same old remnants of, here, comrade, is your allotted amount of 762 BP, brother. Now go get my freaking pocket watch or whatever. But it's kind of this. It's a little bit kind of that same idea, but it's also different as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot better. I like the system more, just simply for what we've talked about previously, right? It's like it's as if you had a once a day limit with a trader, and you could buy either BP, M8, M9M5, M61, whatever. That would do the same thing. It's just like, here's 3 good things that you want. You have to make a choice, and that's the thing about the stock limits and stuff, is if you were there for each reset, you could just buy whatever you wanted of each one, like the maximum amount, and it wasn't really that interesting. Whereas this, I think it's better. It does mean that it needs to be balanced more carefully, because otherwise people just choose the same things. Like, I'm still not sure if anybody's going to be crafting SS190. It's still really expensive. Like the P90 is okay, and you can use SB193 in it, and that's fine. And you don't really buy SS190 for the 37 pen. Right, like you buy it because it's got a 50 round mag and it's 900 RPM and it's the P90 and it goes pew pew pew. So like SB193 is just as good, because you're trying to hit a headshot. Really, you're not trying to drill through class 5. So it's like, does it justify it? Like, if you're using the P90, are you happy to take a step down because you're crafting M9M5 in there, or BP or something, for when you're not using that gun? You know what I mean? It's like the step up from 85501, like a PS to BP is probably the best example. The step up from PS to BP is so big that it justifies you using the step down on the P90 to then use BP with your 762 guns. Like that's the way that I see it anyway. So I don't know. You have to balance it more carefully, because like right now, from what I've seen, it's basically like M9M5 actually seems to be the vogue right now. It's like the in thing. Everyone seems to be having the M9M5, and it's actually not that expensive. It's like 1,000 round.
Yeah, it's really not.
Yeah, you get like 200. And it's like, it's long, but it's not that bad, especially given it's top tier. And I guess like BP and M61, although I haven't seen as much M61 yet being used. I was thinking about starting to use it, just like blow everyone apart, because like not that many people are using it. And
when last like time, what, 3 to 4 times more expensive?
Oh yeah, it is. But
you only get 60 rounds.
You probably fire 3 to 4 times less rounds. Like when you get hit with M9M5, it's like people just like hosing this stuff out. Whereas M61's just, and then you're just dead. That's it. Like it's a completely different endeavor, as far as I'm concerned. But I get your point though. It's like 3 or 4K M61. Like it's expensive, sure, and you don't get that much. But it's fascinating. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
There's like so much value on rounds that have a good pairing that you can buy. It's like the Ash 12 is really awkward. Like, because PS12B, you can't really stack that with PS12, because PS12 just is bad. You basically have to have all PS12B, or otherwise it doesn't work. BP's sort of like that. Like, you can stack it with PS. I have done, but it can get you killed.
Yeah.
Whereas M905 is great because you can buy 855A1 separately. It's not a workbench thing.
Right.
And you can go and go M995, 855A1. 855A1 is still good. You can stack those two things together. And I actually think that with the production time and the cheapness and the amount, I actually feel like APSX there might be an argument for it at this point. Like it's looking kind of good. Like it's not, it's still kind of pricey, but it's, I don't know, in CQ, I feel like in CQB situations or in certain maps, I think it could be all right because you've still got FMJ to stack under it.
Right.
And it's, the same pen as M995, does less damage, but you got the 950 RPM and it doesn't, it still beats out an M4 or HK in terms of that speed, but without having to, mod the weapon to some ridiculous extent. And even then, it's still maybe not feeling that great. So I don't know. I'm intrigued about it. I'm intrigued. It seems like the standout one, right? You look through all these other rounds, and it's like 45 AP with 38 pen. You've got SS190 with 37 pen, BT with like 39 pen, APSX with 53 pen. It's like holy moly! Like that it really does stick out. And the MP7 is already good, and people like it. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe there's a place for it. Maybe there's a place for it. But yeah, I guess like the full list. So yeah, SS190 you now get 180 rather than 100. APSX, you get 180 rather than 120, and it's half production time and slightly cheaper. The Ash 12, you now get 80 rather than 60, but you get 100. Oh, wait, no, hold. Yeah, no, you do get 80 rather than 60. Sorry, you need another 40 of the PS12As to make it. So it's a bit more expensive, but you get a few more. Still don't think it's worth it. 45 AP, you get 150. Oh, no, sorry, I'm getting confused now with the inputs. So it's a little bit more expensive at half the price. And then 9x21 BT, which is the shrimp one, that's been made cheaper. And that used to be 15 hours and is now 9 hours. So you can actually use the SR M2 a little bit more easily. SPP got adjusted too, but SPP just sucks. Like you may as well just make SP6.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel, right?
Yeah. So that was that.
Yeah, in addition, they also changed, for those of you that want to know, haven't seen the full list, the Violet Craft is now 10 cards of 12 Labs XX cards, and then 1 yellow instead of 3 yellow key cards. So that looks good.
Yeah, that reminds me actually, because there was another change to, because you said Labs access cards. So, and this kind of came too late for me, unfortunately. But Labs cards from Therapist 4, you can now buy 2 per reset.
Nice.
Rather than 1 per reset, which is nice because it means that you don't have to spend. I can't remember, are they 135k or 160k or something? I bought loads of them. I think they're 160. So now, rather than having to spend 160 on Therapist, and then because the barters, I think there's 2, but they're quite a lot more. They're like 300k or something. So you just don't really want to do that. So now you can buy 2 from Therapist at the cheaper price, which I think is good. Incentivizes people to go to labs. Lots of people have to go to labs for getting the far forward redonkulous devices, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Were there any other actual update?
I think there was. I just can't recall them, honestly. Maybe I'm wrong, but
it was mostly crafts and labs cards that I thought. You know what? Actually, one very interesting thing that did happen was in the name of improving communication and all of this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When these changes got put through, the official Escape from Tarkov Twitter actually listed out what they did.
Yeah.
So they made a tweet saying change the ammo crafting recipes. It's not specific, but
right.
we changed 190 BT SPP, PS12B, APSX,
right.
changed the Group Labs cards, increased the stock. They've never done this before. That's kind of as close to a micro patch notes they've ever done.
Dude, it's a step in the right direction. I will take it.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Good. If you're listening, Ballstate Games, keep doing it. Keep it up.
Exactly.
The other thing was the streets teases.
Oh yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah, yeah. The screenshots of the new, presumably, I mean, it has to be, right. I mean, it says Streets of Tarkov. Surely,
Yeah.
it's an expansion coming. I mean, we'll see if we see it anytime soon. I'm thinking much more likely winter season, but we'll see. And it looks pretty cool. There's like a school. If you haven't seen it, you can go check on Battlestate Games Twitter page. There's like a school looking like uh, interior, and then like a gymnasium, all dilapidated and war torn or whatever. An alleyway.
With a bike in it.
Yeah, very. I know. Whoa, the vista. And then there's like an office that looks pretty interesting, like a some type of like business suite ish, and it's got Terra Group Labs on the monitor, some type of like video file playing or something, and Hackerman stuff going on. So maybe some more environmental storytelling lore. Who knows? But yeah, it looks good. Looks good.
Yeah, it does look cool. So yeah, hopefully we'll get that. Yeah, I just thought I actually put this on Twitter myself, but I just thought it was funny. I was like, if they do end up doing like a bunch of expansions, can you imagine how crazy it's going to be as a new player to like turn up to Streets for the first time if it's like absolutely huge? Like we're veteran players anyway, and we're used to learning the various maps and things, and we're like, okay, Streets is like a bit complicated to learn. Can you imagine like you just get thrown into this thing after like 5 expansions, and you're just like, it's so huge here.
Yeah, I mean it's already a pretty big map, so it can only get bigger from there.
Yes. I suppose the the only other like news related thing was a bit of a scare within the community. People noticed that on the BSG launcher on the main page, so they usually have that red banner that goes across when something's wrong or when there's a patch or when the game's down because they're updating it or whatever. And yeah, that got hacked by whoever. Presumably it was the cheater hacker group, like whatever, and they instead promoted and put the site link to a cheating group on the banner on the front page of BSG's launcher, which is like, it's not the absolute worst timing it could have been, because they could have done it about a week or two ago. But of all the times that it could be, it's not a great time for that to happen. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it kind of speaks to, I think, the effectiveness of things that have come. I mean, it could all just be, coincidental timing, whatever the case may be, but because yeah, I don't know, but it is the timing is interesting, right? And out of all the times to do this, why do it now? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's interesting. So I don't know. I think it's kind of to me, it almost indicates that things are being moved in a better direction. You know what I mean? Because there's the whole, I don't know. A couple weeks ago, there was some news broke out that the ABS or one of these cheating groups in China got raided or something.
Oh yes.
And people were like speculating that BSG could have something to do with it because they were talking about taking legal action against these people and whatnot. We don't really have any way of confirming that, but anywho, and then the hearing from some other sources like Goat that their operation was like completely shut down. Essentially, they tried to like start it up reselling some other cheats, and they're basically in cash grab mode, and even though the other cheat was detected, and it just sounded like a giant shit show for them. So yeah, I think that's kind of my take on it. I feel like it is like we're winning. W.
Maybe I'm not really sure. I don't really have an opinion on it on that, from that point particularly.
Sure.
I know that people were scrambling a little bit because people were like, what's the actual impact of this? Is there any kind of like breach or anything, or is it just the piece of text? It seems like it was just the launcher. Like if you go and look at the launcher now, that has just been removed. So presumably there was some kind of exploit to get into that and fix that. I don't know. I don't know whether there's any other ramifications. If there were, I would hope that we would get told. I don't necessarily know if that's the case, but presumably it's all good. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It's scary.
I have no idea. I'm not really. That's like nowhere near my.
I know. That's the thing. Like, just a bunch of people they were just like, I was going to go live, but I feel a bit like worried logging in. Like, no one really knew.
Right.
And there's like a bunch of people who came out and said like, oh yeah, don't worry, it's all good, everything's fine. We've checked it, it's all okay. Right. And I was like, oh, and there's a few other people that have looked at this kind of thing before who were just like, I wouldn't necessarily jump to any, it's all safe, all clear, like immediately if you can help it. So
I think it's reasonable. I can't really fault people for being, precautious or
exactly. Especially when I do like, who knows really, right? Who knows what's happened? Like from your own user's perspective, it's like losing your account would be bad enough, especially if you're creative. But what if there's like other stuff? Or
right.
Who knows? Who knows what could be gotten into? So it's never just assume it's going to be okay, I guess.
Okay, so would you like to lean in with that into some anti-cheat stuff?
Yeah, I think that's a natural progression.
Okay,
it's a natural progression. So we kind of have two topics within this grouping of anti-cheat, right? From this week. One which you have seen that I only saw the start of because I just ended up not getting time to, which was, I guess we'll talk about. Well, I don't really mind. We could talk about it first or second. Maybe talk about it second. So this is like Goat and One Peg and Veritas's Valorant anti-cheat guide. But there was also another one, which was about AI anti-cheat and about how that's been used in CS, I think it was. It was CS, right? Yeah, it was CS. Called Anybrain AI, which is trying to solve that particular problem within CS and like how you could use that potentially within Tarkov. I think it touches on some of the things that we had talked about before about like using AI and let's look for outliers and that kind of thing. And it sounded like they didn't go into any specific details. I only watched it once and I only watched it like relatively quickly. They didn't go into any specific details on how it works, but it was quite interesting them saying you can look at the crosshair movements that a player makes and determine from there with pretty high, like extremely high certainty that it's a computer moving that. So it was people using for the final little shot, they just like tweak it right at the end, and like what's the probability that a human player would make that exact kind of movement? And I can see where that's coming from because even somebody who's like a super pro doing a flick shot in a certain way or whatever, like they've probably got a certain reaction time between model comes on screen and the shot. There's a human response time and stuff, which is only that's the basics. But then just even how you move the mouse and like the speed of the pixels and how the acceleration and deceleration of that movement works. That kind of thing is what they're looking at, right? If it suddenly insta jumps in a sort of smooth way, and there's ways of like making the algorithm not look right. It's like if you have an auto clicker, and you make it go every 0.1 of a second. That's really obvious. You need to like put a random. If you're trying to like bypass the system, you need to put like a randomized time in it, whatever. But I guess there must be other more complicated flags. Again, it's like the cat and mouse thing of okay, well they put a randomizer in, but then we look at the average, and then that's just like it just escalates. It's like that's always the way with these cheater hacker things. So that was kind of that was quite interesting, and I can, as we said last time when we talked about this, I can imagine that working for lots of things across Tarkov. It's like which stats do you have that are outliers? It's not just about aim necessarily. It's about looking at outliers on aim, but also on statistics, on movement, on I guess like player proximity or how many fights you get into or whatever. There's like loads and loads and loads of different things you could look into, which is pretty sweet. What did you think?
That video was interesting. It was from, I think his name is That Homeless Guy, and it was I can't remember how it came across my screen. But I was I was like, oh, Goat's in it. I know that guy. And I guess like the premise of it was the person is working on, is it called Anybrain AI? Is that the,
That
I
was
think
the
that,
one that they were looking at. Yeah,
or am I thinking of anyways,
that was it. Yeah.
is that the one that where, so because at the end of the video he was like, yeah, please, the basic idea is like they're trying to train this AI by submitting video clips and um
Well, there were
and
two. Was there his one, and then there was
yes.
Any Brains, right?
Oh, okay. So what was his
Pink.
one? Yeah, I think you're right. Anybrain was it was part of one of the interviews that he did, and because they're working on a similar thing,
Mm.
right? I don't believe it's necessarily video clip driven. Um, which that was an interesting interview because in it they were like, hey, or the interviewer was like, I estimate about 30% of players are not playing legit, and then they were like, yeah, we feel comfortable with that number as well. And I was like, oh, snap, um that's kind of a high percentage. I mean, like, I was kind of leaning more towards like 10% in my
Uh,
head. I mean, it's maybe too generous, but um
yeah.
as we saw in like Goat's video, it's like not not all cheaters are cheating to completely kill everyone in love. You know what I mean? There's
Mhm.
a range of cheating, but anyways, um, yeah, I just thought it was interesting. I think how it ties into the other anti cheat video, the one Pag and Veritas. Um, his some of the opinions there kind of does make sense why you shouldn't put all your cards in this, and possibly the idea of submitting video for training
Yeah.
AI isn't really the best idea in the world, but anyways, it's I think it's all really fascinating. I don't expect Tarkov to roll anything out like this anytime soon, if ever. But
Yeah.
overall I thought it was a really fascinating. I think AI is cool in general.
Sure. I think that the value for Tarkov probably is in the stats side, honestly. Like, we know that you can't use video to figure things out in Tarkov. Like, if there's any AI
Hmm.
solution that is involving video clips and the AI is looking at the video clips, like, that's not going to work because of all the reasons why it won't. We know about this, the desync and the networking and whatever, and you can't distinguish what's actually happened properly from your own perspective, and you really need the server side plus both clients to tell exactly what actually happened in any particular fight, which is it's very unfortunate. But the beauty of the stats thing is that that's kind of like across a series of raids, and it's not being run like in real time, right? So you don't have to put anything into the actual raid. You're just looking at the database afterwards, so it
Hmm.
wouldn't hit the performance of the game, which is why I'm kind of a fan of the sort of stats based approach and looking at outliers on all the various metrics. And if you get a flag on 5 of them or something, you say, well, what's the chances that this person is legit? It's extremely low. And you'd have to train it and see, and then train it again on um, people who are insane. Like, I remember there was a conversation that it might even actually. I like at this point it's all blended into one. It might even have been on our on our interview with Goat,
Hmm.
but where he was talking about Willers having like ridiculously high metrics or
Yeah.
whatever, like so insanely high that you'd probably get flagged somewhere, but you'd need like a combination of all these different things, and the legit player wouldn't ever have those things. Obviously, you'd need to make it that clear. Otherwise, it's not very useful. But I'm sure something good could come of it. Yeah, I'm sure something good could come of it.
Yeah, if you want to check out that video, they're referencing saving FPS games is in the title. Maybe I'll put a link on the description of the podcast. You can find.
Yeah, he's called basically homeless, isn't he? The guy who
Hmm.
the YouTuber, and it's like how to save FPS games, visual AI cheat detection. So yeah, the visual bit,
And
kind
it's
of
a
whatever.
quick, 16-minute video, not too terribly long.
Mm. The one thing that, yeah, just in terms of how it actually appeared, I found it kind of interesting how some of these videos just like appear out of nowhere. Like, I had people in chat saying like, "Oh, have you seen this?" It's one of those things that because it's so topical, and especially within our community, it's kind of circulated like wildfire because people are interested in it and looking at solutions, and I'm wondering whether BSG will do or won't do anything in particular. So
They're coping
it's funny
so hard.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get AI anti-cheat in EFT anytime soon.
Yeah.
Personally,
I mean, they might be able to buy something.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe BattleEye has a plugin for it or something. Who knows? Maybe they're doing it already.
Yeah.
Like, got no idea. Really got no idea.
But it is interesting. Speaking of interesting, there was a interview done by Goat, Veritas One Peg, kind of like a podcast-ish style with a Valorant Vanguard, I think is their anti-cheat name, developer. I think he was the I'm probably gonna get a lot of stuff wrong, but at one point in time he was the product lead for the anti-cheat team. And that was it's a very long cast. You can find, I think by now each creator's got their video up on YouTube somewhere. And it's like a 2 hour and 30 minutes. Like, it's a really long cast, and there's a lot of stuff in there. I mean, a lot of it is very technical and jargon, a lot of high level stuff, terminologies. But overall, I thought it was like super interesting and really insightful into. I mean, it's kind of funny because there's a lot of things that he like basically every other word was or sentence was like, yeah, I can't tell you everything, you know what I mean? But it was cool. I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, it's a shame that I only managed to catch like the first little bit really. What was like the most interesting part that stood out to you in particular? Like, was there anything surprising that he said?
Anything surprising?
Or like relevant to Tarkov, I guess.
That it's a resource thing. Like, so probably the thing that makes the most sense is, and we've already kind of like talked around this a bit, I think anyways, but so to put it into perspective, I can't remember his name, but the Valorant anti-cheat guy, I'm sorry, fellow human, for not knowing your name, but he got a job, with Riot, and they basically, I mean, because there was a lot of hype around Valorant back in the day, like the promotion and stuff. I remember seeing it, and it was like, yeah, we built it for the ground up for like competition, and like it's gonna be super secure, blah 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 servers. I don't know if they have 128 servers, but anyways, it was like built with like competition in mind, including anti-cheat. Like, they were really pushing their anti-cheat, in-house anti-cheat, really hard. And essentially Valorant was like, or Riot Games was like, hey, whatever you need, you can have. And then you'd be like, hey, I want to do this thing, it's gonna cost this much. And like, okay, it's fine, yeah, do it. So they just like threw money at it. And because they started the process from the get-go, the very start of the project, they had a lot of advantageous things at their side. Like, one of the things he talked about a lot, and you see this talked like the Cycle talked about this as well, is your players really value essentially the security of the game. They want the fair competition play, and there's essentially multiple layers of security that you want to have. At the maybe like level 0 would be having as many, like, securing the game itself. And this was something that he talked about that isn't really like a part of the anti-cheat side necessarily. Like, someone like BattleEye, this isn't really what they do, but like essentially having your server authoritative, having it where the client can't just say, oh yeah, I'm in this position, absolutely. And the server's like, oh yeah, you sent me that data. That's absolutely true. I'm not going to check for it. You know what I mean? Um, so that's definitely on the, typically it sounded like that's on the burden of the developer. And that's like, that's a very important thing. And then the next thing is like detecting cheater and, like having the game certain requirements for your users to meet. Like, essentially they didn't allow Linux for Valorant. You can't play it, and there's several reasons for that. But yeah, and then the cycle used an analogy, which is like the Swiss cheese approach. You have like multiple layers of Swiss cheese. Like someone can bypass through this layer and this layer and this layer, but eventually this other layer will get them.
Yeah.
Um, and that makes sense. So there's uh, uh, a lot of layers you need to apply. And in the case of Tarkov, if you're developing the game and then it takes off essentially, and you didn't really plan and prepare for these types of early foresight things, you're in a very uphill battle. So it's like a very AAA studio privilege thing. It almost made it sound like if you want to make a multiplayer video game, like especially a first person shooter, it's like not even really worth doing
Yeah.
because you have to sink so much money into uh anti cheat essentially, and that's assuming that you're going to get a return on your investment.
Mhm.
Um, it's like you could like you for me if I it it just doesn't even make sense to develop a, like maybe you could have an idea and sell it off to a company and be like, hey, you guys do all the work, because otherwise it's just like, dude, it sucks, man, because you don't even know if your game's going to be popular, and you're going to
Yeah.
sink all this dev work essentially in debt into and cheat. So that was, I think that was probably one of the most insightful things, was just like how difficult it is to be well prepared and have the luxuries and resources to just throw money at the problem essentially.
Yeah, that really sounds like such a death knell to kind of like the indie FPS type thing where it's like, well, if you need all this money and resources to get started, but you don't know if it's going to work or not, then you just can't even begin, right? It's like it's too much risk and there's too much. Like if it is successful, the game will die because you haven't prepared. Like it's just you're stuck unless you know that you can make a global phenomenon like Riot, because you can just spend as much money as you like on it and you can make a competitor to all these other games, and you've got like thousands of devs or whatever and the money to work on it. It's just, yeah, as you say, the AAA studio privilege of being able to make this kind of game actually is kind of bad. Like that sounds pretty bad for the industry, honestly.
Yeah, and I guess that's where you see a lot of the early access, you know, open beta, type of stuff, because they are able to actively develop the game while also, you know, paying the bills, so to speak. I
Mm.
mean, obviously there's investors and things like this, but having that extra income. But it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like you have the cost of just building the game, and then you have the cost of just securing the game, and there's just a weird relationship, because you also think that your technically your cheaters are your customers as well. You know what I mean? And you like there, it's interesting because he said, I forget the number, but he said like X% of players being cheaters we would be totally fine with. Like that's totally acceptable. I'm like, damn, I didn't even think about, like, you guys actually have like you're okay having cheaters in your game, and like but it's realistic, you know what I mean? It's not just like some, oh yeah, it's 0%, but it's like that's just impossible. But they want to, essentially, he was like, yeah, we got it down to where it's like uh they would find like a 24-hour turnaround, I think, or something, for cheaters, but that's like the top priorities. Like some cheats are like very low prio for them, whereas some other cheaters are much higher threats, possibly because they may not fully understand what's happening. There is a part where they do inherently allow cheating to happen because they're trying to, gather information and whatnot. And it really is like a cat and mouse game. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's a really interesting, um, fascinating part of gaming.
Yeah, especially it's just like this has appeared over the last kind of 5 years probably. I mean, cheating's been going on forever, but I don't know. It started to really like strangle, especially the FPS genre, in more recent times. Well, did they speak about? Because I remember hearing this ages ago that Valorant potentially had. I think it was Valorant. They potentially had ways of mitigating things like ESP as well, where like player information is not sent to you until someone's like close to the corner, something like that. So unless they're, I guess it would be something along the lines of
Right.
unless they're within the kind of the whatever the desync is in Valorant, like the network latency. How far away, how quickly could they get to that corner? Like, what's the minimum amount of time that they could suddenly appear if both players move in the optimal direction, both at the same time, like, and then with a little bit of a leeway or whatever, like until they reach that point that you don't even send the player information for the opposing team, so you can't actually see because they're not even on the map because the information is not there. Did they talk about anything like that, like withholding info? Because I think that's something that BSG are looking at doing. Because Nikita said that, right? Because like right now we have everything. Like, why do you see everyone's KD? Why do you see every piece of loot in every loot box? Like, it's just crazy.
No, they did not. Not that I recall. I don't think they talked about that specifically, and I think that's just one of the, as I said, the advantages of having that foresight.
Yeah.
I think that was a big marketing thing too, as well, for the game early on. And I don't know, but I would imagine it's probably not in the cards for Tarkov. I mean, it just sounds, there maybe would, I don't know, so I shouldn't say, but
yeah, I think some stuff would be okay because we've talked about like hiding loot for ages. Like the community's talked about like not generating the loot within a box until you reach it, for example. That's probably doable.
yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah, it is hard to say.
Like this is the thing. It's without a doubt, it's probably doable. But is it worth it? Because that's the whole other side of this discussion. It's like it is a very cost benefit analysis problem. They don't have, quote unquote unlimited resources to just throw at the problem. And this was another thing that came up a lot in discussion was how, because Valorant is a free to play model, they have that problem to overcome as well as like, well, they can just, get back into the game and start cheating. Like we ban, but because the game has a long term plan to generate revenue, you have more resources to work with, potentially, assuming the game takes off and things happen as they're supposed to,
and people want to buy the skins,
right. And there was some talk of how, but this is the other crazy thing is like, because they were trying to explain Tarkov to him because he's never played Tarkov. Like he's maybe seen something, but he doesn't really know anything about it. And they talked about how, oh yeah, the accounts can be up to like $160, but like there are, I wish he got more into the psychology, if you will, of cheating. But to be fair, it's probably not something that they highly focus on and prioritize, because they're much more about security and detecting and prevention. But anyways, I mean, cheaters will pay like $3,000 a month for some of these services, which is insane. But one thing he talked about that was super interesting and makes a lot of sense is Well, two things. One, you know, the he didn't say the exact number, but he said something like the conversion rate of a cheater to a legit player is like extremely low. And you know, especially when you're banned, right? Because then you think, oh well, I'm already like flagged. You know, you're kind of like in this other sub community. You know, so it's like, you know what I mean. You're kind of like marked. You have like a
I'll get them back.
yeah. I mean, it kind of reminds you a lot of the prison system here in the, the U.S. Honestly, but the other thing was shoot, what was it? I forgot it. Hate it when that happens. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. You were talking about you were talking about community and about cheese and stuff. I think the thing that surprises me about that, and you see the numbers, like I was surprised because we had Goat's number there, 60% of raids or whatever the number was. I can't remember now, but that was based upon 5% of people who've got cheats in some way. And these guys were talking about like really high numbers, right? Like 30% of people cheating in games. I just find it incredible that that's actually the real figure. That there's a serious number, like 5%. I don't know. I guess like my faith in humanity, like it shouldn't ever be very high, particularly. But you just think like, Jesus Christ, really? Like a third of people? Like surely not.
Well, this is the thing that's interesting. Now I remember one of the things I said. So the guy that they were interviewing, he actually cheated at one point back in the day. I mean, it's kind of makes sense how you get into the stuff because it's like a very technical thing. You know, it's like hacking related. You know what I mean? So like I could totally see how, you know, as a youth, you may get into this kind of techie stuff. Hack. Oh, look what I can do, and then you know this opens up different career paths and interests, and then next thing you know, you're developing anti cheats. But he said that you know he cheated, and you know he had like aimbot, and essentially because of that experience, he never learned the technical skill of aiming. So like he cannot play, like in his mind anyways, he cannot play FPS shooters without cheats. Like he just can't. And it makes sense, right? Because you never like developed those skills. You know, like I was talking with a buddy the other day, and we were reminiscing about some of the older games to play, and then I was like, yeah, dude, I remember I downloaded cheats for that game. And he was like, yeah, me too. I was like, what? No, it was funny. And we both had the same experience where it was like, yeah, that's just not fun. You know what I mean? This is just like, it was fun for like 2 hours, and God knows how much malware we got. But anyways, whereas like someone else that, you know, like I can totally see how, let's say you got 2 hours a day to play video games. You're playing this game, you like it, but like you basically realize like I don't have time in the day to get good, right? And I make crap load of money. Why don't I just cheat and enjoy the game? And you know, and from that logic, you know, it makes sense. I'm not saying it's like morally sound or whatever, but I can totally see the logic there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was the other thing is like they were like, yeah, we really don't prioritize the guy that's cheating, you know, of walls and has like a 3 KD or like a you know a 2 KD. You know, it's just not something that is high priority. Like they'll get them eventually, but they're not on the top of the list. You know, and that was also interesting because it's like, oh wow, that was just not what I expected. I just thought like, you know, there was just like, oh, every cheater must, you know, iron him. You know, it's just kind of interesting. So yeah, and then essentially the conversation basically he was, you know, kind of like saying or advocating for you need to know how much you can trust your your host or not your host, your clients, the players. Um,
Yeah.
and he thinks that the industry will move into a more opt-in focused implementation, where essentially it's like if you want to play untrusted lobbies, you can. But if you want to play trusted lobbies, we're going to need this information from you. You need to have this enabled. You need to have this type of CPU or later. A lot more requirements. Which is like makes a lot of sense because I think a lot of legit players are willing to give up more to have a more secured experience. I know I would be fine submitting my social security number. I don't think we're going that far, but there was I think maybe I might be misunderstanding, but there was talks of like hardware, fingerprint scanning, but I might have not fully understood that.
That was in the first video, actually. That was at the end of the first video. That was the Anybrain guys talking about like global biometrics kind of thing, where there's a global database that I guess everybody would have to link up to. You have like EA and the Steam, the whole Steam platform, like everybody would join this thing. And if you get you have to get your fingerprint read or something like that. Iris scanner, who knows what. And if you get caught, you get banned, and that's it. And you're banned across everything, and it's like your online identity sort of fingerprint type thing. I don't know. I mean, there's lots of debate that could be had about that.
It sounds so dystopian,
it
like
does.
sci-fi.
Oh my god!
Please take your Tarkov pills prescribed now.
Oh my god. Oh man, I don't know. It's just it's kind of a depressing topic in some ways.
Honestly, that was kind of my takeaway. Is I feel like with everything he said, that BSG are in a really like. Honestly, my heart really goes out to BSG because the game kind of like they accidentally made a good game. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something to Tarkov, this whole like extraction shooter that people really like. They really dig it. And arguably specifically with Tarkov. The problem is they do not have the luxuries or privileges of, having all these resources and having the foresight and, the experience. I mean, there's just a lot of things. Not to say that they're not experienced, but specifically in this area, they're probably not as experienced as some of the people on the Valorant team. Because one of the things he talked about as well is they essentially found one of the guys, someone like I think they were like maybe they found a solution. I can't remember, but some random person was either making hardware related hacking, because they talked a little bit about that, where essentially you read, you plug in into your machine, it reads your memory, it manipulates it and sends it back to the machine, and essentially the anti-cheat can't ever detect that. They found him and they basically bought him out. It was like, hey, we'll buy this, come work for us, essentially. And I just like I can only imagine, how valuable that was, how expensive that was, and I just don't know if that's ever in the cards for BSG. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like they have so much more money, right? It's like a huge company. So I say all that to say that my heart goes out to them, BSG, because they're probably in a really difficult spot, and the way I see things going is things probably will get better, but I don't think it's going to be where anyone wants it to be. And we'll, for fans of the genre, we'll probably just have to wait for the next iteration, whatever that may look like.
Yeah, exactly. Or there's there's some kind of base package of this kind of anti-cheat thing that you can just like buy and plug into your game. It's like nobody normally makes the whole game engine, right? You normally take the game engine from someone else and then like modify it, whatever. You use somebody else's game engine, or you use someone else's audio system, like Steam Audio, Oculus Audio, whatever. Like there needs to be some kind of like global anti-cheat kind of equivalent for this kind of stuff. Although I guess the issue with that is that then if it's all the same, then I guess it's like then the ways around it are all the same as well. I don't know. It's extremely tough. It's extremely tough, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah. Because I mean, the other, he did talk about AI a bit, and they used, I think he said they used AI. Maybe it was machine learning, but essentially there is, because they did talk a little bit about that Anybrain video, or that I can't remember what the other one was called, but the whatever, you know what I'm talking about, and saving FPS games, and
yeah,
he basically was like, yeah, that you can't just have one solution, you need multiple. Like they're all tools in the toolbox, if you will. And he had some critiques of the one that you input video clips and whatnot, and yeah, it's just it's tough, guys. It really is tough, because as I said, I think things will get better, but I don't think they're going to be at a point where everyone's happy. ESG, us, yeah, and yeah, I don't know. It's a side tangent thing. I'm really interested in, like, because there's another way to tackle this. Is like you could tackle the more, like, could you have, I don't even know if this is like, it's probably not even like a business model, but like, could you have something that's like converting cheaters into legit players? You know what I mean? Like, is that another, because they basically coexist, the cheating and anti-cheating, and like their number one job with anti-cheating is making the business not profitable, the cheating business. That was like their number one goal. And then he was like, legal action is one thing, but like, yeah, that's like, that's really what it's all about. So,
which makes sense, because you just need to get them to stop.
yeah, and if they can make money off of it, then it's a business, and it so you can totally see the problem there. But yeah, I'm super interested in like the more psychological stuff. I think that stuff's really interesting. Like, almost like, it almost makes you wonder if it's just better to, if like shadow banning is just a better alternative for like everyone involved, because like they can still play the game, they can still, be a customer. It's just you're not allowed to play with these other groups of people,
Yeah, like trusted servers or whatever. And people always say the whole like, oh, just put the cheaters in the same lobbies with each other. And it's just like, well, if we knew who the cheaters were, then we just ban them. And it's just like, well, maybe you could just, once you find them, you just put them in the lobbies with each other. Who knows? It would be quite funny actually if you just like put a load of people in these various lobbies, and if somebody starts getting absolutely slaughtered, then the ban was maybe false. You have to like look into it. Because they're in with all the other cheaters and they just start getting destroyed. Like maybe they're using ESP, I don't know, but depends what you put them in for. And it just got me thinking. Now there's a random thing, because we're talking so much about, well, thinking about a lot about like Valorant and Counter-Strike and games like that. This reminded me something else about, this is kind of random, but it still relates to Tarkov. Somebody sent me that video clip about sub-tick rate updates from CS2, which was about, you don't need to, I don't know if you've seen it, but it was like, you don't need to worry about tick rate anymore, because now we've got like the full like sub tick rate ordering and stuff, so that everything gets processed in the right way or whatever. And somebody sent it to me, of a friend actually, and they said, oh, I saw this thing about CS2, like I don't really know much about tick rates, whatever. Like, is this relevant to Tarkov at all? And I was just like, oh boy, is it really?
He's so precious.
Exactly. I was just like, I don't think we really have to worry about sub tick rate updates. It's like we have to deal with our 250 milliseconds of desync. So it's
right.
Yeah, we're not that we're not that specific. What happens in the fight is more of a it's more of a best guess than anything else. I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. I just got reminded of that. Oh man. So, do you want to hear? Do you want to hear about my endeavors finding the GPSA? Finally,
No.
on that. Oh,
No,
okay. We'll move on then. No.
No, let's hear it.
Yeah.
Where was the spot, man? Where was it at?
So the spot that I ended up finding it with, everybody told me, it was just, oh yeah, you'll find it in the cat room. You'll find it in the cat room. Eventually, yeah, I found it in the cat room. It was the one as you go into the room with the cats. There's the black box on the floor, and it was next to that.
Hmm.
It was like right at the start of the raid, basically. But it was one of the last raids I ended up doing. It was the test stream on YouTube on Wednesday, and I was just like, hey, the first ever stream on YouTube. We find the GPSA. We must be lucky. We must be lucky. But yeah, it was. Yes, it's crazy. I'm putting this thing together about MCC, about the GPSA, just because they're really rough, and a lot of people I think want to do it, but like don't really want to play labs. Not really sure, so I'm still figuring out exactly how I want to do it. Like I don't want to make it like an entertainment piece. Really, it's like a half and half, right? 'Cause it's like it's half a where are they guide. It's a half a. Well, it's like I guess not half. It's a part where do they spawn guide and how do you actually go through. A part like how do you get out once you've got the thing. It's a part labs guide for people who don't play labs a lot. It's it's quite tough to try to exactly work out like what angle I need to go down, you know, because it's tricky and people have like a very wide experience with labs. People either just like don't want to go because of cheaters, don't want to go because it's scary and expensive, and or they don't have as much experience. But I think I think there's ways of doing it. I think I did get quite unlucky. I haven't actually totaled it up yet, but I probably played 40 labs raids, maybe more, I would think. And I only saw the GPSA twice. I saw it once on like the first couple of days, and then I just literally didn't see it again for 3 weeks until Wednesday, and there it was, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, it's just one of those things. Like there's so many spots you have to check, and unless you do actually go and it's like once you've gone halfway through, you're like, well, should I just like keep charging around the map? Like because there's lots of people on there playing just for PvP, like they do.
Sure.
And you're there like just like wandering around looking on shelves, like looking for a white dot and stuff. And you're like, there's like guys in meta kits charging around with M4s with their 905, and you're just like like having to look on the floor and stuff because of all the loose loot. I'm just like it's like really counterproductive to playing labs. Actually, it's like really annoying. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I missed it in a few places. I'm not sure, but like I think now I've seen enough people talking about it. Like Very Bad Scav did a video about it where he like runs around labs showing people where the spots are. There's like a couple of maps that people showed me. So I think I've got pretty much all the spots down now about like where it could be. And I ended up absolutely hating the MCC. I'm not sure if I told you this last time talked about it last time with the stupid far forward current converter, but in my whole time in labs, I ended up seeing it. I think I saw it 7 times. And I don't know whether the spawns are equal between the two. I imagine they probably are. I mean, I guess they are, but I don't know because they're equally as rare. But the MCC is actually easy to see because it's physically bigger.
Okay.
And the far forward current thing is actually really quite little because it's only a 1 slot item and it's grey. Whereas the MCC is like a tan color and a 2x2. So maybe I just missed it a bunch of times. Like, who knows? Like, it's definitely possible. Either which way, I got kind of unlucky, I think, or blind, or both. And it was just it was hard, but we finally managed to get out. Like it was so near the start, I was like, I basically like I was right next to the cat, I ran in, and then I ran back, and then tried to take the absolute easiest exit that I could. So I was like trying to sneak my way down into the sewers, and it was so funny because like people watch the big guys playing labs all the time, and a couple of people actually in chat were like, I've watched like Tiggs and like Glorious play labs like a bunch on stream. I've never seen this exit. I was like, yeah, because like none of the chads take this exit because it's not near any of the loot. It's a pain to get out of. It takes ages once you pull the lever, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. Right? That's the thing. But that's the reason why I tend to take it sometimes because I know I won't meet anybody. If I've like got a full bag or I've got one of those stupid items because they don't go in your secure container, you can probably take that and it's relatively risk free. I think I've met people down there twice, maybe ever. Like at any time that I've ever taken that extract, which is quite funny. So, yeah, some people just like didn't even know this extract existed, and I watched people play labs loads. Like one massive advantage actually of sewers is that it doesn't go under the other floors. Like if you go to a med elevator and stuff, like you can hear people. Like if you're upstairs, you can hear people downstairs and things. You can get some audio cues, and people can push you and start getting you, trying to kill you or whatever, and like running down the staircases and whatnot. I've just been reminded in chat. Yeah, so I panicked because I thought I had to wait for it to be fine in raid. But obviously it's for the hideouts, you don't. But it's because because I didn't think it through logically. I was just like in the zone. I was like, well, it can't go in my secure container, so it has to be fine in raid by default. And then I conflated that in my mind with like I need to stay to actually have a funny raid status.
Right.
And then when everyone was just like, no, you can just go, and I was like, oh wait, I can just go. I'm not handing it in for a quest. I'm just using it for my intel center. So it's all good. So that was fun. It was quite a sweaty exit. There was one particular fight which is extraordinarily notable for me. And I think this must have happened. Yeah, because I think I stopped playing labs as soon as we found it for that session at least. Like I'm probably done for a little bit. I might dabble now that you can buy 2 keys because it is actually quite fun. Now I've got into it a bit. But yeah, I had a notable fight with one of Tarkov's Giga chads.
Oh,
which was pretty fun. So we had looted some stuff, and we were like, "Oh, we've just like gone through all the spawns, and we'll just leave the raid." And I was over by where there's the big long corridor down in the basement, which is where the med elevator is, like the one that people normally take. You go all the way down to the end room, and you pull the lever, and then you go back up the corridor a bit, and then the elevator's there. If you went all the way along there's a staircase at the end, and I was basically over there. And I came down the staircase along the med elevator like tunnel, and as I moved to look through one of the doors, I could see somebody at the end of the med elevator tunnel thing, and I was like they'd obviously just gone in, pulled the switch or whatever, and I was like, oh crap, right? Because I meant to go out of there. And so I tried to run back and got sprayed down a little bit, shot a load of shots. I had an MP7, shot a load of shots off, and then sprinted, took a ricochet off a Ratnik from behind, and then ran through. I ran up the main stairs, and the guy throws a grenade behind me. I run back into the main hallway section. I'm just right, prepare myself. I think I'm not sure if I pre-pained or something. But anyway, the guy charges up the stairs. We have this firefight, this sort of strafe through the doorway. He's inside the stairwell. I'm outside with this strafing fight. But I got MP7, and I slightly mistimed. I thought he was going to come back out slightly quicker, but he waited for an extra little second, and I fired and used up too many of my rounds, and he went back around the corner. As he started to move past the doorway, I reloaded and ran into the door jam, basically behind so the door's open like this. I ran behind the door to try and reload before he could come round.
Okay.
And he comes round with the Tiger, swings once, and I just go and just MP7 him with my new mag because it reloads super quick, the MP7.
Oh, okay.
And kill him. And loot the guy's body. It's level 68. I was like, holy moly. Open up the tag, and it's just the number 3 with all the equals is it's just a huge schlong on the dog tag as the name, and someone in chat was just like, oh, that's Smitty Stone, and I was like, no way, that's nuts.
That's
funny. So yeah, I basically only won because he heard me reload and thought he could kill me with melee, but so I got saved by hubris, I suppose. But it was fun. It was an honor. It was an honor to fight somebody so so renowned and such a giga chad of the labs. I don't think I've fought anybody, or not at least I know of. I don't think I fought anybody super popular or big streamer or anything in there before. So that was fun. That was quite cool.
That's cool.
So yeah, man, it was. It's certainly been an experience. It's certainly been.
Yeah, are you gonna return to labs? That's your new home. Are you labs main now?
I know I'm at labs main, but I would quite like to go back, not looking for the white dot.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean.
Yep.
And maybe get a card or 2 or something, and go and see if we can do that, because now that I do feel a lot. I mean, I'm way more comfortable with it than I was. 50 raids will do that to a guy. I've played more labs than any other map over the past month. So it's like one of those things where you do actually start to get comfortable. And they've changed some of the barters, so you can get like the black barter is like really cheap now. You can craft violet, and this is a bit cheaper. So I don't know. Like I maybe look into it and do a bit more. I'd like to just like go in and do some loot and PvP and kill some raiders and whatever, rather than looking for a stupid DPSA thing. But the next thing on the list actually is the vertexes for Peacekeeper, because they're actually a pain, and I don't have any of them. And I think you need to go to the lighthouse.
Oh yeah, don't you need two of them?
You do.
Yeah.
I haven't found any.
And you can't craft them, right? You just have to find them.
Can't craft them. Yeah. I'm not sure if there's a craft behind Lightkeeper, but you probably need to find them for Lightkeeper anyway, regardless.
Yeah, because don't you have to find your fire forward converter for Lightkeeper as well?
What do you mean? Oh, to actually like, he gives you one, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think he gives you one as a reward, but like, I don't think anybody would get it that way.
Yeah,
that way around.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the items that I need next, because found the LEDX. I found the LEDX whilst trying to search for these stupid things, because it just happened incidentally because I hit the rare spawn so many times. MCC got that, GPSA got that. Now it's like the two vertexes. I found the other GPU as well in labs. So like the 3 GPUs that you need for mechanic, like I found the final one of those. You can actually craft those still without doing anything special. So you can, if you get the GPSA, you can then craft the GPUs. But I'd already found it in labs on the rare spawns before I found that. So yeah, it's like these vertexes are probably the last thing that I need in terms of like city items. So I think next time I'm going to try and get that. So back to Lighthouse. Probably some of the first times this. Well, no, I did a bit of it before, but not seriously. Just questing previously. Have to play it properly. I'm going to do looting. Ugh. Jumping loot in the road camp and stuff.
The loot, I need it. Cool. You want to hear about Darker and Darker getting a DMCA takedown by Nexon?
Let's talk about it, because Dark and Darker is a cool game. It's interesting. I'm not sure whether it's necessarily the best like stream game ever, but it's definitely fun to play, and I enjoyed playing it offline with friends. So I'd hate to see that game disappear. Have you got the hot take on it?
Not really. I mean, I don't know, maybe, but it's so for those who don't know, actually just shout out to One Peg. He's got videos on the topic that do a pretty good job. I haven't seen all of them, but I would assume One Peg does a good job about these things. So, and he likes Darker and Darker, so I know he's gonna have a good take. But nonetheless, so Nexon's filing for infringement upon Corporate Trade Secrets Act, whatever Korean law that they have, and they basically went through Steam, and standard procedure, I guess, is like if there's been infringement, you go through Steam, and they will, much like YouTube, just automatically take down the video and whatnot, and another resource. If you want a much more longer in depth video, I think Devin Nash has one. They does a really good job explaining it. And as a fan of the game, maybe not. Yeah, it's a great video. He has like 72 hours. He's like, guys, listen, I'm a fan of the game, but I have some bad news, and it doesn't look good. Because most likely the courts are going to side with Nexon in this case. So look, there's a lot of like memes going around, like oh look, Nexon should sue the Lord of the Rings because look at this wizard. It looks like the exact same intellectual property as but the real issue is that if I'm working for a company, right, and I'm making a game, am I allowed to just quit and then make the same game, with like a couple different assets here and there? That's the real issue. I guess at stakes is
Hmm.
is the how are the courts there going to decide? And the courts are different in that they're not so, when compared to the US anyways, they're not so like interpretative, I guess, for the individual. I don't know. Like I said, go watch the Devin Nash video, honestly. Now that I think about it. He does a really good job explaining it, better than I can do. And so, and the corporations are also much more or maybe the government's much more friendlier with corporations, I guess maybe is a better word. In terms of lawmaking, this, that, and the
Yeah,
other.
South Korea's a funny place, right? Because it's like run by the kind of big family groups, right? You have like massive conglomerates. Like if you look at the South Korean stock exchange, it's like companies named Samsung is like 60% of the exchange or something. It's like
Yeah,
insane. It's actually insane. It's very weird.
it is
Very
very
weird.
weird.
I think it's kind of uh it's kind of a symptom of like the flash rise to power or whatever that they had going from
Mm.
like, they're actually like relatively recent history going from kind of a rural sort of farming type economy to like suddenly this like crazy boom like tech thing, but you end up with like a massive concentration of power. But anyway,
Yeah, that is interesting. Um,
do you think they're going to rule on the side of Nexon at least? I haven't. I need to watch
that's
the Devon take. I want to
yeah,
watch the
definitely
Devon
watch the
one.
Devon take. There's kind of like easy. I think it's you have like 4 outcomes. A, Nexon wins, and um, you know, Iron Mace is effectively shut down. B, uh, Nexon kind of wins. In that there's probably going to be like some. I think he thinks A or B is probably the more likely outcome, but B is there's some type of agreement came to like they essentially Iron Mace settles and they I don't know what that would look like. Maybe they could continue developing the game, but Nexon gets 30% of all revenue generated. I don't know. Maybe it's like, hey, you can keep developing the game, but come back and work for us. Just I
Yeah,
just can't see that happening. Well, the way Iron Mace is like they're like this is the thing. I don't really know what's up with Iron Mace because there was the whole thing with the one of the developers. Essentially during COVID lockdown, he was like, "Hey, can I have a private server to upload stuff? It would make work so much easier." Blah blah blah. And they're like, "Yeah, sure, do that." And then after COVID, he kept it up, and they're like, "Yeah, that's fine." And then eventually, it became an issue, and whatever. And then that was like a separate matter, but long and so like, there's been issues between the workers and Nexon, and then they go off and make their own game, and the Nexon sees it, it's like, "Hey, that was the game you were working on," because a lot of the stuff does like it's a similar concept, and I guess you can't trademark an idea, but they seem to think that there's um enough evidence there to say that they are infringing on some things outside of just the corporate trade secrets act, which I can see the you would I just think it would be a bad precedent to set for this idea. Like you could just work for anyone, develop this product for a while and then be like, wait a minute, why aren't I just doing this for myself? And then just leave and then make the same, almost the exact same idea. You take all that. I could see why that's a bit of an issue. So I don't know. And it's a little different there because Nexon shut down the project that they were working on, and apparently they were really passionate about the project and they believed in it. Maybe they had some different ideas of certain things like monetization, this that, and the other, which is totally fine.
mm,
I don't know. It's a really weird spot to be because I also like the game and I would like to see it. I really would like to see it play out because a lot of people seem to really like the game, like a
yeah.
lot. There's a lot of interest in it, and I'm very curious on how that game is gonna perform in the longer run. Will it still be popular? Is it just a hot fan? Etc. Um, so yeah, it's kind of a bit of a downer if things do go south, and we may not ever get to see what that outcome would be.
There's a lot of downers right now, Church. What's going on? Why is everything feel like crap all of a sudden? What's happened? What's happened?
I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of I really think there's like, for me, the anti-cheat stuff was kind of a downer, but like on the flip side, I do like, because I do think making a survival-ish game, Tarkov's like kind of I mean, it is a survival game, but it's a little different. But like, because someone was saying this, like, in the past 10 years, the only like 2 survival games we got is DayZ and Rust. That's really it. And there's been a lot of attempts at, like, how many times have you seen the words open world survival game, you know, and the game's just like nowhere to be found after. I mean, there's so many like memes about that stigma of just making, yeah, guys, I'm making another open world survival game. It's just like, it's so funny. But yeah,
we best hope that Shroud and Sacriel are, you know, make sure the anti-cheat layer is, you know.
Well, that's the thing that the cheat dev was talking about, or anti-cheat dev was talking about, is that, you know, he really appreciates the opportunity to talk about this stuff, because he does think that there needs to be players need to voice that this is important to them, because the people at the top level that are making these decisions may not necessarily think it's worth doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it is a money game as well. There's the business side of doing. And, you know, having things like, you know, like requiring users to have this, you know, meet all these conditions so they could play in trusted lobbies. You know, someone might see that and be like, oh, I don't like that idea. You know, that's going to cut our bottom line, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so on the flip side, I say all to say, on the flip side, you know, I do think someone out there is either currently working on, or is at least looking at the success of Tarkov, you know, possibly with a bigger budget, resources, and is doing something, you know, possibly the splash damage thing. I wanted to look up who splash damage is owned by. I remember looking it up earlier, because I is it Tencent? I think they're actually owned by.
I think it is Tencent. Yeah.
No.
That's good and bad though.
Yeah, I know. It's just, dude, I'm always like weary of
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Microtransactions, dude. Like, just the egregious ones is so, like, the Psycho Frontier has microtransactions, but like they're so non-invasive. They're not loot box related. You know, it's like battle pass. Like, you get some free, you know, skins with the free one, and like some free loot, but it's all like such a drop in the bucket compared to like the stuff I used to play, dude. Oh my god, it was literally Giga. It was literally a slot machine, and then a ball would drop out, and you open it, like, you just got the legendary gun that's exclusive to this gambling program. You're now going to wreck the lobby. It was awful, dude. It was actually awful. So, and that was from Nexon, by the way. Shout out to Alliance of Valiant Arms. Oh my god. But yeah, it just makes me really worried about stuff like that. Like, claim now your survival package and get your free G36 when you start out fresh on the beach as you stop your noobs. Only $59.99.
This is the problem with all these things, right? It's like, it's actually the same. It's the same but different as back when, you know, I was looking at VR and looking at the Oculus and stuff, and I've got like the CV1, and Oculus was doing their thing, and then they all got bought out by Facebook, and they were like, oh no, don't worry, it's, you know, we're going to be doing our own thing. We're standalone, you know, they're just there to, you know, like, let us grow or whatever, and like, you know, take the money, you know, as we're growing, and then slowly, like, you know, they're like, there's the mothership here, and they're giving funding, and they're doing their thing, and it's just like they're sort of slowly orbiting, and then they eventually just get sucked into the black hole. Like, everything gets rebranded, like everything goes to shit. It's just, it always seems to happen that way. You know, they just can't, you can't resist the pull of whoever it is that's like your overlord, unless you do manage to really, really, really keep it separate. So I don't know. I'm not sure whether they will or not. Remains to be seen. But like having the backing is not necessarily a bad thing, but yeah, it's just nice to be wary of the other side.
Yeah, it's the boardroom people is what's. But this is the thing. This is why I think maybe there's when I first heard about the Shroud and Sacro thing, I'm like, what are they really bringing to the table? You know what I mean? Like how much value is that really adding? I'm sure there's value, but is it just like one big marketing strategy? But if they advocate things for like, hey, we should have TPM enabled, we should have this security feature thing, we want these, these are good things, people want this, they do kind of, then yeah, I think that's a win overall. So
yeah,
and I'm not trying to say that Tarkov's in the grave now, like I said, I personally think that because there was one other thing we should talk about quickly was within Goat's. So I watched Goat's stream instead of the videos. That was like the first one that came about of the anti-cheat interview, and he had a segment earlier where he looked at this Reddit thread on the Escape from Tarkov subreddit, where it was a interview 2015 interview with Nikita and like at some Russian game devs conference, whatever. And the like auto translate or whatever, made it sound very odd because he was talking about, essentially about the business model of the game, which was, microtransactions. And there was just some weird, translations, like it uses donations instead of anyway. So Goat got someone who's fluent in Russian and could translate this, so he got kind of like a more precise translation, and also played Tarkov and had some context to work with. All these things are important. And Nikita, it seemed like Nikita was essentially saying that the problem with the microtransaction model was that it's free to play. They come back and like sure they buy skins, right, or whatever, but then they get banned and they would see their income go down, something like this effect. And perhaps Nikita thought that if they switched to a more premium model where like you you had to like pay a fee every time to play the game again, like sure you got banned, right, but now like you can't just come back and play for free. You know what I mean? Like you lost your $60 or whatever in that cosmetics, and they're less likely to buy cosmetics because now they're a cheater. They're marked, right? It's like why I'm just gonna get banned again. Yeah, I'm just gonna. But it's fine. It's a free game. So if it's like not a free game, then maybe they'd be less likely. Goat kind of like that was sort of his extrapolation of it, which I think kind of makes sense, and I can kind of see that. But I think obviously some cheaters are willing to pay $2,000 for their cheats a month, so it may not represent everything. But anyways, it's I forgot where I was going with that.
I just don't get it, dude. Like, why do people spend so much money on it? It's so insane. It's so insane. It really does split the human population into like people that derive no value from they're taking a huge advantage and feeling like they've succeeded, versus people who do derive some kind of value out of that. And it's a very clear, defined sort of split between those two people, right? It's like, as you said, you've like fiddled around with it before, and it's just got it gives you no satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, it does. For some reason.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's a big power. Like you
don't even know these people. Like it's just like it feels so weird. Like it would make more sense if like the dude's on your street, and you like got to see the reaction. But you just like shoot at a body in a video game and then they fall over and you take their stuff. You like don't even know who they are, like where they are in the like. It's just so like
Well, I don't.
abstract.
Yeah, I don't
Maybe
necessarily think
I
it's
don't
like.
get it because I don't get it. Right? Do you know what I mean? Like I can't understand it because it's
Yeah,
like it's not how my that's just not how my brain works.
I mean, I would speculate that it's not necessarily like power over other people. It's just that you are now powerful. You know what I mean? It's like
Maybe.
you went from a in real life you went from a knife to a gun. You know what I mean? That's just like a huge jump in power.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So it's I could see it being like imagine one day, like let's say you this is such a bad like with everything going on, it's such a bad attitude. But we'll say for self defense you have a knife, right? And then one day you upgrade to a gun, and for like months now you've been upgrading to a gun, and previously the knife was like very risky. You had to get up close, hand to hand combat, whereas the gun is now just like you just pull the trigger and you defended yourself, threat eliminated. And K Kona clap. But and then imagine one day, someone takes away your gun. We're like, well shit, now I gotta go back to the knife. And the knife was like really risque, It was like nowhere near as powerful. That's kind of my thing, is like I could see how people could get essentially addicted to it, where it's like going legit is just unimaginable, you know what I mean? Because you don't have any of those skills you developed, with like I could see it,
It
I
also,
could
I
see
don't
it.
know, for me, the thing that would ruin it, I guess, and it's like
Mhm.
in other games where you can like single player stuff where you can turn on cheats and just
Yeah.
like auto build stuff and whatever. It kind of like ruins the immersion layer, once because like it really does lay bare the fact that it's like, oh, it's a video game, you know what I mean? Because like you get immersed in these things, and that's why they're fun in the first place because they mean something to you, and or it's like it's skillful or thought provoking or whatever. And if you just like circumvent all that stuff and just like give yourself infinite resources is not Age of Empires or whatever.
Mhm.
You can kind of like ruin the game for yourself a bit because you're like, oh well, the original the base game is so laborious or whatever in comparison. And then I can sort of see it. I can sort of see it. It's like you've played, you can see everybody through the map. You know where everyone is, and you're just like, oh, it's like it sort of almost degrades the legit game for you. Even when you do go back, you're just like, what's the point, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's like in the single player um realm, it makes sense because you like a game like Dark Souls, for example. A lot of people were really upset, or Elden Ring, I should say, that there wasn't a difficulty slider. That
Is
upset
there not
a
one at all?
no, and
I,
they
I still need to play that, by the way.
yeah, you should. And they were they were kind of basically doing a hard stance, just being like, no, like this is how the game's meant to be played, and it upset a lot of people. There's a whole this discussion about what's the word? Not inclusivity, but accessibility. That's the word.
Hmm.
And whatnot. But if you put cheats in the equation, then you can basically gear the experience to your liking. You know what I mean? You can adjust the difficulty to where you're going to get the most out of it in your
Yeah.
mind. You know what I mean? So I could see how the same logic could be applied, and you know, oh, I'm just not, I don't have the time to invest and to get good, or whatever. I just won't be good. Whatever you come to, or I just need a little bit extra help. I just need a little bit extra info to know where these guys are. Whatever the case may be. I could see it.
Hmm. Yeah. I can certainly see it for people using ESP in particular. I've said it like a billion
Yeah.
times on stream now, actually, just how like kind of insidious it is because of how hard it is to detect. Because if you're doing it smartly, then like it's very, very difficult to actually ever know if someone's using it. And it doesn't necessarily make you that much of a better player. I know Goat spoke about this, right? It's like there's guys who did the wiggle, they've got like KDs of like 1.5 or 2. And they got like terrible, terrible stats because they're just not very good. Right. And they've got ESP so they can see where all the people are because they're just like not good at shooting. So like I can sort of see it, kind of, but I don't know, man. I don't know. It's rough. It's one of those things where you almost feel at some point you're just like, is it even worth them playing Tarkov? Like, would would they be better off just doing something else? I mean, each to their own, right? But
well, this is the other super interesting thing is like, what is it? Like cheating is such a cheating is a problem in Tarkov, right? We all agree with that. But which is it? Is it that people don't care about cheating because they're still willing to play the game, right? Or is this the game so compelling that they're willing to put up with the cheaters in the Tarkov?
Definitely the latter, I think.
Is it? Yeah, I don't know. I would probably lean that way as well, but can't say for certain.
Yeah, and it's not obvious enough of the time to really stop people from playing. And until it was revealed, right, in the GOAT video, that's when we've seen more people than normal saying like, okay, now I've seen it. I've seen what it's like. Like it hasn't actually really, because a lot of people have asked me on the stream as well, like, has this really affected, is there a big change? Like, is it way better now? I'm like, guys, it feels exactly the same as it's always felt to me. Like I can't tell. Like when people are saying, oh, the cheating situation's really bad, feels the same. When people are like, oh, there's a huge ban wave, like everything's great, I'm like, feels the same. Maybe I just suck, but it's I just can't tell. And I play solo. So those two things compounded, I'm just not sure. But it's that weird subtle thing of like when the community feels like it's bad, everyone's sort of complaining about it, even though if you were on your own and you didn't have Twitter telling you, you may not even notice,
Yeah.
People find it very hard. Like it's just human nature, right? We find it very difficult to isolate our own experience away from the social media like echo chamber or whatever, and have that like pollute our thoughts. It's just kind of like how we're designed, right? It's how we're designed to be social with each other and like to share information and things. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. But it's just felt the same to me forever, for the whole time. Like even like before, through the crisis, after, now, after the ban wave, now that people are supposedly coming back. I'm not sure.
No, I agree. I think it's really, there's like few cases where I would feel like like just the other day I was playing the cycle and this guy like he's using, you remember the Osiris, the burst pistol? He came around the corner, he was really close, and I think he like triple headshotted me. Like I just like got absolutely deleted. And I was like, huh? Like, was that legit or not? Like I don't really know, you know what I mean? But I initially I talked to like, oh yeah, that was a good shot by him, but then now it's like, oh, well, 30%, is he a 30%er? I don't know.
There's no cheaters in the cycle, though. Oh, the cycle doesn't have any cheaters.
It doesn't. It's totally cheat free.
Totally cheat free, of course. How did you find it playing? Was it good?
I'm kind of going through it still. It's okay. I think my problem with it, right now, there's some interesting changes they made, but my problem with it right now is it's so overly simplified and like I don't even know if handheld's the right word, but like here is the linear. It's so linear that it's kind of, it feels like you're playing like I never really played these games, but it feels like I'm playing WoW. It's just like kind of like mindless grinding away at quests. You know what I mean? It's very
go
like,
and fetch me 3 of these. You go to the place and fetch the stuff.
right,
You go to the loot spot and fetch the stuff and then leave.
Yeah, it's like and then go back to the quest giver and he's like, okay, now do that again. And it's just like, but I want to go do this other thing. It's like, what are you talking about? That doesn't exist. This is the way. This is the only way to play. It feels very like that, very rigid. Because like you the second map you can unlock after a certain amount of quests you do or something. I don't know what the requirement is. But then there's really no reason to go. I mean, like maybe there's a reason to go there, but like I don't have any quests there. So like what's the, like sure the loot's better, but like what am I going to do with that? Sell it? I don't know. It just feels, something feels off about it. And also the stakes don't really feel that high, which could be good or bad depending on who you are. Like for me, I feel like I would like the stakes to be higher. Like, yeah. But they've done some interesting stuff, so I kind of want to like play it out and see how it goes. They've changed One of the big things is they're not doing any wipes, which is really interesting. They're gonna do some sort of like prestige thing. They haven't really released much stuff about that yet. They're still like kind of finalizing that stuff, but they're gonna do some like, you know, you can wipe and get something from it, you know, whether it's cosmetic. They don't, again, this is all just like they don't know yet, but they like changed. They made gear more spawn. I think I talked about this last time, so I'll try to be
Yeah, you
brief.
said about this last time. Yeah, there's
the
more
spawn,
rare.
yeah, and I found found some stuff already in like locked rooms. Like locked rooms have more valuable. Like they have a better chance to spawn stuff like this. So it's yeah, I kind of want to play it out for those reasons, kind of see how some of those things go. Oh, the other interesting thing is essentially they made the better guns more expensive by making they broke up ammo, because it used to be like your universal ammo, like
Yeah.
medium ammo for like your, you know, guns, but now it's like medium ammo goes into some of the like standard guns, and then if you want to use like the more like the blue tier guns, you need the blue ammo, and it's like 3 to 4 times more expensive than the, you know, and that makes it interesting because you can't just like, it's going to be expensive if you want to go pub stomp, essentially, you know, go bully some white gear players. But anyways, it's an interesting endeavor. I'm kind of just filling it out for now.
I think the thing that I maybe found a bit uninteresting was just like the loot locations. I always found them a bit. I mean, it's hard to say because there were like puzzles and stuff to like open doors and things, which is kind of cool. But I just found like a lot of the places to go quite uninspiring, and a lot of it's just like I don't know. I'm not sure if it's that much different to Tarkov, but I don't know. It just feels a bit lackluster to me. You know, it's like you go to the lab bit, the optic lab bit, or whatever it's called, and then you just like wander around and grab some stuff from boxes, and because there's no, I guess maybe because there's no flea or whatever. Like the flea in Tarkov's like super fun. It is super fun, even though it kind of breaks the game in many ways. I still really enjoy it. Just the player market. I feel very like alone in the cycle because it's just like you and the traders and like your crafting, and that's about it. I think I just like having the concept of the flea there. It feels like, you know, the player base is sort of connected in some sense. Maybe I'm just romantic about it. I'm not sure.
I mean, the one thing I will say is I don't like how, I mean, I guess Tarkov kind of has this problem. I don't know. It's just weird, but it just feels like you just press F on everything because you, like, there's so many quests, like, especially now, because now you have the dailies that you can also stack on top of, and they'll be like, turn in 10 compound sheets and 8, you know, ball bearings or whatever. And so it's like you essentially always, you know, can put that loot towards something, you know what I mean? Where it's like a hideout upgrade, a crafting thing, a quest thing. So it kind of makes, I'm starting to get in the stage where I need to be more specific about what I'm looting, but like early on, you can just press F on everything. It feels like, you know, but yeah, I don't know. I'm like super interested to see how the game progresses as far as like popularity and stuff, because it is like one of the things about the like, it's just I can like kind of describe why I don't find it enjoying, you know, but like why do other people not find it enjoying? That's also what I'm interested in.
Because how many people are on now then? So there's 8,000.
That's better than what it used to be. I think it was like
It's actually a
3,000.
big jump. I don't know what happened. Oh, did they announce something? It
Oh
was
yeah,
like Wednesday.
the
It jumped to like,
season. That's when the
oh, we just
season dropped.
started.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That's kind of rough though for like a new season to come out, and it's like 8,000 people.
Yeah,
Before
well,
that, it was literally like the peak was like 1,500.
yeah. So it's you know.
You know, EU morning, which is like low time anyway in Tarkov. That's like, you know, triple digits, like 900 people playing.
Yeah.
Which is a bit sad.
Yeah.
Although it's going up, maybe more people are finding out about it and going back and having another go.
Yes, I was watching Shroud stream because he was streaming. I'm assuming maybe he didn't get a sponsor, but whatever. Someone in chat was like, "Damn, there's more people watching than playing right now." It's like, damn, he's right though. He's right though.
Oh dear. Yeah, that's a bit sad, isn't it? But no, it's a bit crazy. I think I think Clean put something about this. Maybe I talked about that last time. I don't remember. Just about how there's all these random games that are sort of that genre. I can't remember what the other ones are called, but there's like loads of ones that I just keep seeing here and there that I've never played. That like random people play, and they've all got like a few thousand people playing them. And there's like so many now.
Oh
It's a bit,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
a bit tricky.
Someone else was showing me a game. I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And then I looked at the player count, and it was like 100 people. But like it was such a cool idea, and just and it goes back to that thing we were talking about with the anti cheat. Is like, dude, it's like you spend all these resources on anti cheat and then making the game, and then no one plays your game.
Exactly.
Which I know Jaeger's put a lot of the cycle devs have put a lot of work into their anti cheat, and it sounds like they've done a good job of securing their game. But will it matter? If no one plays your game, I don't know.
Yep, that's the thing. That's the thing. It's so tough. So tough for kind of indie style devs. And we do have a lot of these. We have a lot of these games right now, though. So I'm not sure if we necessarily need more. I mean, I'm such a specific kind of player anyway. I just like play one thing to death. I've always been like that. So I don't normally have time. People are like, oh, have you played this? I'm like, nah. Have you played this? I'm like, nah. Have you played this? Nah. This is like these 5 games from the past 10 years. I probably haven't played it. Cool.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for today's episode. Unless you got anything else, Giga.
Nope, all good. We'll see what next week brings, and hopefully I'll come back reporting great success of a Vertex on Lighthouse next time. We shall see. We shall see.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Catch you later.